Can you tell me a story that you have with a wrestler that's like a standout one that when you think about WWE, you think of this story?
The Undertaker. So obviously, I'm named after my father, Tom Carlucci Sr. And I'll never forget when I first was introduced to him. He's very intimidating. Like, he was the king of the locker room, still is. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of those guys where it's like, you know, if you have to talk to him, like, yes, sir. You know what I mean? Like, that's the respect he has. So a close family friend who also worked on the road, she's like, I'm going to introduce you to him. I'm like, okay. We're about to do a shot, right? Like a backstage with him. And she's like, oh, like, so, like, you know, Taker, sorry to interrupt. I said, I just want to introduce you to Tommy Carlucci. He's new to the road. And he looks at me, Mike, and he goes, Tommy Carlucci? You're not the Tommy Carlucci I know. Now get the fuck out of my shot. I was like, oh shit.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mike Squires and Friends podcast. You can support by subscribing on YouTube or downloading on your preferred podcast platform. And definitely go do that because it helps us grow and I can have more incredible guests on the podcast. The Mike Squires and Friends podcast is proudly sponsored by DistroKid. Looking to broaden your musical horizons as an artist? Discover DistroKid. With its smooth and rewarding music distribution platform, DistroKid offers unlimited uploads while ensuring artists retain 100% of their royalties and earnings. Join the community of over 1 million artists who trust DistroKid to distribute their music across major platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, and so many others. Having personally used DistroKid since 2018, I can attest to their superiority amongst distribution services. Collaborating with fellow artists has become effortless, especially with the ability to easily send splits of songs, streamlining the creative process. With the DistroKid app, accessing these benefits is now more convenient than ever. Safely sign up or log in with two-factor authentication, upload releases on the fly, monitor earnings, and withdraw funds from your DistroKid bank. Stay updated on royalties through push notifications, effortlessly share hyperfollow links, manage account details seamlessly, and track streaming stats from Spotify and Apple. Additionally, explore Mixia for professional-grade mastering, DistroVid for music video distribution, and Instant Share for secure file sharing with collaborators, producers, and more. The DistroKid app is available on both iOS and Android. Download it today from the App Store or Google Play Store to revolutionize your music career. Visit distrokid.com/VIP/Mike Squires to get 30% off your first year membership. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Mike Squires and Friends. Today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, an incredible DJ, human being. I've known him for a hot second.
Long time.
DJ Tommy Carlucci.
What's up, Mike?
How you living, dude?
How are you, man? Good to see you. Thank you for having me. This has been a long time coming, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I wanted to kind of talk about how we met and like first connected. We met via Johnny Empire at Spring Weekend over a decade ago, I think at this point.
Dude, I think I still have a picture. We went to like one of those shows at like one of those like halls like that was on campus. And it's me, you, Doc, and Johnny, like after a concert, and it's just like everyone's just like all posted up.
A rare photo, dude. But we've done a lot in recent times too. We obviously, you know, work very closely with the Hey Stanford Food Festival.
Absolutely.
You were my DJ when I opened up for Flow Rider.
A true honor.
Dude, having you as a DJ, you know, for
Appreciate
like,
it.
bro. And, you know, as I was going through your gram and everything, and kind of just like looking at you, not that I was sleeping on you, Tommy, because I've always known you were dope. But you got some crazy accolades and things that I didn't even know.
I appreciate it.
Right off rip.
And my whole motto, man, is one day at a time, one prayer at a time, dude. And I'm just really getting started, but I'm not where I want to be just yet. But I'm super thankful for the opportunities that have gotten me to this point. You know?
Yeah, and I want to talk about all of that. But one thing I want to talk about is that you kind of started with drums.
Yes.
So how did
Still going strong. So at the age of 5, I kind of had the itch to be a drummer, you know. And obviously at the time, my parents weren't really endorsing a drummer, you know, so thank God for my Uncle Joe hooked it up and got me a kit. But what he did was he's like, listen, like, we're going to start this piece by piece. So he influenced me, and That Thing You Do, the movie with Tom Hanks, it's based around a drummer. So that's really what influenced me. So what my uncle did was, you know, obviously seeing that movie and then going, okay, I want to do that. That's pretty cool. And then my uncle, piece by piece, every birthday, every Christmas or so, we pieced it together to see if I was serious about it. And then the lessons took off, and the rest is history. And now finally on a tour, so super thankful for that.
I'm going to bring it back to that too, but I want to talk about some of the early stuff too. Because at what point do you transition to start DJing?
So my dad was a DJ for 15 years before I even picked it up. So I remember like even as a kid, like because my parents worked for WWE as well. I'm sure we'll get into that eventually.
Yes.
But besides that, they were working on the weekends. hustling. So they would, like, my mom was a waitress and my dad was a DJ. So when he sold his equipment, I was like, you know what? I think it's time we try it. So I remember I went to Tower Records with him, and for Christmas, I was like, you know what? I want that. I want that little, like, there was this company called Ion or Eon, whatever it was. They used to sell these little DJ setups at Tower Records. And I was like, yo, I want that for Christmas. And finally it showed up, and I taught myself how to beat mix, and I had a family friend who was really, really good at mixing on everything that really paved the way for me to kind of like, okay, if you want to do this, take it serious.
And you come from a line of entertainers because your grandfather, Pete, was also an entertainer.
Yeah, he was a singer. He used to sing at the Italian Center all the time. Frank Sinatra type stuff. So it was really, really cool.
Yeah. So what was one of the first gigs you got as like a DJ that, where you're like, oh, this could actually be a career for me?
So I started off doing family parties to see if I would like it and see like where it would go from there. I remember I used to DJ in my bedroom all the time, and my mother would come in and she would dance, and she's like, keep me on the beat. If you train wreck, I'll let you know. And train wrecking and DJing, for all the fellow DJs out there that know, is pretty much when two songs don't match beat-wise and it's just atrocious and it sounds horrible. So that's why we're all about the transitions. So I would, practice all the time at home, took it to family parties. From there, I had like a family friend who was like, you know what, like I want you to DJ my wedding. So I'll never forget, I did his wedding. I was nervous as hell. I was probably like 15, 16 years old, holding the microphone, shaking, like, okay, here he comes in, like, like Mr. and Mrs. And then from there, from there it was like proms. And then when I went to college, I started doing the formals and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I got my name out there.
Yeah. How did the University of New Haven, expand your career?
Dude, I remember, I think to this day, or maybe besides maybe one or another person, I don't know, I was the only undergraduate to headline Spring Weekend. And Spring Weekend in colleges were always like huge because we would bring in, like, at the time it was T-Pain, Dave Coulier from Full House. He did like a whole comedy set. Third Eye Blind, you know what I mean? So it's just like crazy to think that, okay, like we're trusting you enough that you've built your name to this point. Everybody kind of knows you once you open and see what happens. And that was like in front of like 3,000, 4,000 people. Were you there for that?
I was there for one of the Spring Weekends. I don't know which one I met. I met you on the one that Johnny was performing at.
Yes.
So was that the same one?
So we did that together. That was in the parking lot.
Yes,
so
correct.
That was one year. And then the following year, I did it with T-Pain.
Oh, insane.
So I'll never forget this. Shout out Johnny Empire for this one. So I remember, I always promised. So Johnny and I go back to sophomore year of high school. Like, that is my day one best friend. Like, that is my dude. Brother to this day. Super talented, as you know. And it's nice that we can all collaborate together. I think it's awesome. So I remember for the Spring Weekend when I opened up for T-Pain, I'm like, yo, you're going to come up. I'm not going to tell you when, but you're going to come up and you're going to freestyle. He's like, what? He is. So I'm like, just do it. So I'll never forget, I put on Who Shot Ya, the Notorious B.I.G. Instrumental. He came up and destroyed. Everyone was like, oh, like going nuts. I'll never forget that, man. That was like so much fun.
Well, you've had the opportunity to meet so many people in your career, dude. Can I name somebody and you kind of tell me the story behind it?
Of course.
I know you met Dillon Francis multiple times.
Yeah, so Dillon is actually really close friends with another DJ friend of mine who's also one of my best friends out in California. So when my buddy was doing his stuff with him and DJing as well, I mean, he just knew him through the circuit and stuff like that, and just years of just spinning together. So that was really cool. Definitely like an amazing personality. I think that's somebody you should have on Mike Squires and Friends in the future.
Do you have a funny story with Dillon?
So I saw Dillon at one show in, oh my God, where was it? I think it was like in Poughkeepsie or something like that. And this is like after like I met him through my friends. So when I went to go see him, I'm like, yo, man, like, and he remembered. I'm like, yo, I'm so-and-so's friend or whatever. He's like, oh, let's send him a video. And he's like, suck a dick. Like, it's great. Like, send it over. Like, he just has that humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was super cool. Like, he's super talented, like nasty when it comes to like.
Another incredible DJ I know you met was Laidback Luke.
That was crazy to open for him. It was the Norwalk Halloween Festival. Super thankful for that opportunity. And I'll never forget, he like really listened to my set. And I like maybe like 2 days after I put up a post about like, the picture of him and I and me transitioning from his set back to mine, which was like out of nowhere because I thought he was going to close it out. And then like we were just going to play, like regular house music, which is just not to be confused with the house music genre, but like, when a DJ's done, no more DJs around, we'll just play something to the front of house. You know what I mean? And I remember I got the text that said, hey, you're going to go back on. I was like, okay. So I went up, set up all my stuff. And I remember he's like, yo, man, I'm at 128 beats per minute. And I was like, to me, I'm like, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to really show, like, because now you're mixing by ear. You know what I mean? And you got to really make sure everything is perfect and you want to impress him. And he was really impressed. He's like, dude, I loved your scratching too during your set. So shout out to Laidback Luke, man. He's a phenomenal DJ and he's done so much for our industry.
What do you think makes you stand out as a DJ?
Versatility.
Explain.
So for me, I was brought up around being an open format DJ, right? You have a lot of guys who just mix house, just mix hip hop, sometimes just, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I respect that. And you study your craft more that way. But I always wanted to do a little bit of something for everybody and every crowd, right? I was a private events DJ for a long, long time. I learned from some of the best people in New York has to offer. And for me, you know, doing weddings and stuff, you have to train yourself to like, okay, I need to know disco. I need to know freestyle, which is like that 80s genre. I need to know rap, you know, hip hop, R&B, even Latin stuff, you know what I mean? Or even different cultures. You know, I've done as far as like I've DJ'd a 3-hour Indian ceremony, which was awesome to do, you know, and that was for a friend. And, you know, you learn different cultures. You know, I've done countless events. I would have to say I'm probably like in the 1,200 range of like private events that I've done throughout the years. But for me, I think versatility is the way to describe what I do, because you can put me in any situation and I promise you, like, I will go there knowing that, like, all right, I'm going to give them the party that they deserve.
What's the big difference between some of your DJ gigs and your drumming gigs?
Obviously, like the learning curves, right? I mean, there's different ways that you have to learn certain things, right? Like with DJing, you got to study genres, right? When I auditioned for Ryan Cabrera, it was more of, here's his songs, how do I stand out, right? Because every audition is different. And for me, I'm more of, I can play fancy. It's crazy to say. But at the same time, I want to play what's on that record. Because when the audience comes to see him, they're so used to hearing what's on that record. And shouts to his drummer, his studio drummer, who was amazing on that record, on all his stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to be that guy, but put my own spin to it. And that's how you kind of differentiate, because the practice time is different. Like, I've probably done 10,000 hours worth of like practice time just with drums alone, with drumline and stuff like that. Whereas even with DJing, man, because every gig, I want to be better than the last one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to speak. If that answers your question.
No, it does. And you know what I think would be a cool thing to talk about is, can you take me through the process of auditioning for Ryan to the point where they're like, Tommy's our guy, and now touring with him, and you've pretty much been everywhere with him at this point.
Yeah. So with that audition, I kind of went through like all of his hits. So I did On the Way Down, which is, everybody would know that one. 40 Kinds of Sadness, which was off of his first album, which, by the way, his album, Take It All Away, is just turned 20 years old this year. So we got some cool stuff coming up with that we're doing. So I did On the Way Down, 40 Kinds of Sadness, and I did Shine On. And it's funny because when I first went to him, I auditioned in March of 2022. He loved it, and he's like, listen, we'll be in touch. I didn't hear from him probably until the week after we did Hey Stanford Food Fest with Paulie D. And he's like, hey man, like, I'm coming to Pittsburgh. Let me know if you're down. We'll give this a try, see where it goes. And then he's like, can you play to these tracks? I'm like, sure. He's like, can you trigger different sounds and like try to mimic what sounds on, like, what the track sounds like? I'm like, absolutely. And he's like, cool, see you in Pittsburgh. And to this day, never had one rehearsal. It's always just been great vibes and trust. And dude, it was great. We went there, we did the sound check. He's like, yep, cool, we're ready to go. So like that was one of those things where I'm like, you know what, like, it's finally paying off as far as like my training and taking drum lessons for all these years. And I've had some of the best teachers in the world that have like taught me from the drumline standpoint to my other drum teacher who has drummed with Cirque du Soleil and Walt Disney. Like they've trained me so much, even to my mentor now, Brian Fraser Moore, who I've been working under for the last 6 years, who's drummed for Justin Timberlake. Madonna is now on the tour for Pink. So him and Adam Blackstone are a huge influence, and I thank them and owe them so much. Adam Blackstone's one of the biggest musical directors in the world, a phenomenal artist as well. And he's the one that kind of books all these acts, you know, all the bands to put them all together. And he's actually the one that got me Tori Kelly, Christmas in Rockefeller Center.
Amazing, dude.
To drum with her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super thankful for those two.
You know, and I've done my fair share of touring on the road, so I know.
Dude, I used to text you all the time.
Dude, but I know how crazy it could be.
Yeah.
So do you have a story while being on the road with Ryan that you could share of just like a crazy moment?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. So here's a good one. So we're all for like the tour pranks. I'm sure you have a couple yourself.
Have to be about it. If you're not laughing, you're crying on tour.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And like for me, like there's been times where we like to bet a lot. You know, it's friendly betting where it's like, okay, like I remember one of the first times I went out on the road with him, he's a big Cowboys fan. Now, I don't watch football, but you know, I like to talk my shit once in a while. So I'm like, oh, you guys are playing the Giants. And this was the night before we played the Big E Festival. And I was like, yo, loser has to wear the winner's choice on stage, whatever the outfit is. I'll send you this picture. And I lost. So you know at the Big E, there's like all these like weird pop-up stores and like trucks and stuff. He found me the ugliest picture of this horse or like unicorn on like this pink tie-dye. Bought it like 2 sizes too small for me. Cut like all these like little tassels on it. I had to wear it on stage. I was like, yo, what is this, dude? Like, what? He's like, he cut the sleeves off. It's kind of scary.
At least you're like, with the drummer, at least you got the kit that's kind of blocking you.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
And
did you have to do like a bow at the end?
Yo, typical Italian. I had like my white tank top underneath. So like he's like, bro, you can't wear that. I'm like, yo, I'm wearing it. Like it's too like because just in case I can't drum in this anymore, I'm taking it off. He's like, you can't take it off.
It probably looked crazy, dog.
I gotta find you the picture.
Yeah, we'll pop it up too. But I know that your tour pranks and shenanigans have also been leveled up from that. Dude.
I mean, dude, there's just so many to count. You know what I mean? Like,
you recently got a tattoo though, didn't you?
I did indeed. I played Tattoo Roulette with Mr. Cabrera.
Could you just explain to the people what Tattoo Roulette is, dog?
Oh God! So Tattoo Roulette it's an elite brotherhood according to Mr. Cabrera, and he only does it with certain people, and it's one of those things where it's a handshake and trust. And I'll never forget we were on the golf course playing in Chicago, and he's like, "Yo, do you want to play?" I'm like, "Eh." He's like, "Come on, man. You know you do." I'm like, "All right, fine." So we did it, and we were in Washington because we did a show at the RIAA, which was awesome. And it's like the recording academy and stuff like that, the industry. And he flew out, his wife's cousin, who's a tattoo artist, flew out, stayed at the Airbnb with us. And Tattoo Roulette, man, can't disrespect your grandmother, can't be religious, and it just can't be anything foul where it's like, this is really offensive. And I'll never forget, we always have a debate on tour because he loves Friends, and I'm a big Seinfeld guy. And I was like, all right, I got it. I know exactly what I'm going to get him. So I went first, and he tatted me Vince McMahon on my ankle. It's a portrait of him, and it says YOLO underneath. And he's got George Costanza. You ever see the episode of George when he does the painting?
Is it with the picture?
Yeah.
He's got that, dude?
I combined 2 different episodes. So I got him on the couch, and underneath it says, I was in the pool. Bro. You ever see the episode when they're in the Hamptons and he has shrinkage? Dude. So he's yelling, I was in the pool, but he has no idea what it meant until I told him.
That's so funny.
So he's got that, and I got Vince.
We got to pop up all these photos, dude.
Oh, don't you worry, we can.
Another thing, I actually have a photo very similar to that George Costanza photo. Have you seen that? You know which one I'm talking about?
In the leopard?
Yeah, in the leopard print, dude. Which is a crazy thing to say that you have.
Yeah, and it's
Oh yeah, here we go. Dude,
I'm not very good at like.
Oh, crazy, dude. Dude, I mean, it kind of looks like Herman Munster, dude.
Yo, that's what I tell people. Yo, I get that all the time.
Which is mad funny, dude, because Herman Munster really only did live once, dude. He's fucking technically dead, right? Or no, he lived twice, technically.
Yeah, yo, listen, I'm just going with that story moving forward.
Oh, man, it's really funny. But I think, but with getting tattoos like this, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you attach them to that time period in your life, you know, like it ends up being like, because I have a lot of friends who have tour tattoos. The first person I think of is my homie Code Break, but like, you know, he knows exactly where he was when he got these, and they just they almost bring you back. You're like, yo, this is the first tour we did.
So I have like spotted tattoos now too that I've been doing, and I think Ryan's kind of influenced it because he has a lot of spotty tattoos. Like, for example, he plays with a lot of friends.
Yeah.
So he's got like Sister Act 2 on his ankle. He's got Chris Farley. I think he's got Ryan Gosling, I think. Don't quote me on that. And he's got, so he tatted on his friend, he tatted the Taco Bell logo.
Insane.
So his friend gave him Applebee's. So Applebee's reached out to him and gave him like $1,000 worth of stuff and gift cards.
Listen.
So now if we're on tour, Applebee's is on you, bro. You already know.
Listen, dude, if you are going to get an Applebee's tattoo, you deserve every single dollar.
Oh, dude, like they hooked it up.
Yeah, I want to talk to you, though, because you've met some insane people, dude. Some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring up some more people, and you got to tell me the story.
Done.
Bro, Dr. Dre.
So going back to my buddy who's a very close friend of mine out in California. So I went to his wedding. Dre was there. And it was one of those things I was like, you know what? Like, I just want to, he's there. I just want to introduce myself. And I asked my boy beforehand, I'm like, listen, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. If you say no, that's fine. He's like, nah, dude, go ahead. Spoke to him for like 5-6 minutes. I didn't want to take too much of his time. I was like, listen, man, like you are a legend and you've pioneered the way for all of us. And what you've done in the music industry is bar none. I said, do you mind if I get a picture? And he was super chill.
What are you guys talking about the other 4 minutes, dude?
Dude, just like, you know, how we knew our mutual friend and stuff like that, and what we did and how we met and stuff like that. And dude, it was awesome. Really cool.
When you were talking with him, did it just feel like talking with another human being?
I was nervous as hell, but you know what? When are you ever going to get that opportunity again?
No,
you know?
Insane, dude.
And like, even if it was just for 5 minutes or 5 seconds, man, I'm just like, you know what? Like, this is this is childhood for me. You know?
Yeah, I'm trying to paint the picture of this moment too. Like you're at this wedding. Is it like a double take you take? You're like, yo, is that fucking Dr. Dre, dude?
I saw him in the corner, and I was like, you know what? Like now's the time to do it. And at the time, this was like the cocktail hour. So like my boy who just got married is like in the corner with his bride. I'm like, yo. So do you mind? Are you cool with this? Because again, you know you don't want to rub anybody the wrong way. You know what I mean? And like it's one of those situations where I was like, you know what? Like this is the homie. This is the GOAT. You know, so I was like, I'm gonna go up there and talk to him. So
yeah, and you bring up an interesting point too by like not rubbing people the wrong way because how you carry yourself in this industry is so important.
And word gets out.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, fly under the radar, keep the ego aside, and just be you, stay humbled, and things will happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like what's something that you think people should avoid doing? You know, if they're green to the industry, never been in it, something that is an absolute no-no mistake.
I would say like just be respectful to everybody. Always introduce yourself. That goes with anything, right? Like that's one of the things, like even with WWE to this day, that's what we teach our talents, what we teach our like new crew members and stuff. Like don't ever like not introduce yourself. If you see somebody like, hey, how are you? I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you. Like this is what I do for the company type thing. No matter what industry you're in, always respect the ones that come before you, but also like don't be afraid to ask questions. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those situations where like if you're in that moment, don't blow it for stupid reasons to put yourself over. If you're good, people will see that. You know what I mean? You don't have to brag about it. You don't have to say certain things to put yourself over. If I go to approach somebody that's new that I want to have a working relationship with, I tell them who I am. Nice to meet you. Hope to link soon. And if something that comes about of it, amazing. If not, maybe now it's not the right time.
And a lot of the time too, if you're in the room, you're there for a reason.
Amen. Amen to that, dude.
Another person.
And I'm like, if I'm in that room, I'm not the one that's going, hey, here's my Dropbox with everything. Here's what I offer. Here's what I've done. Like I've been in rooms with a lot of people where like you get to those conversations organically. It's not like you have to, you know, blow your load too quickly. You know what I mean? Like it's just I hate using that term, but like
you want to like be cool and like there's kind of a certain aura that if you come off like a little too like eager, that it like it actually ends up discrediting you and hurting you more.
Of course.
Do you have any instances of like moments that didn't go well that you'd be willing to share, or like a lesson you learned?
I had one audition for someone. This was like years ago when I first broke into like drumming, and I'll never forget. Like I studied everything the way I needed to, right? And I went in and like, just like I walked in and there was just a bad vibe. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you walked into this big studio and it was cool, But like, I just felt like I was like, you know what? Like, maybe this artist isn't for me, but I'm still going to give you everything I have, right? And I ended up getting the gig, right? We played a huge festival, and then a week later, like we spoke, and it was just best that we went our separate ways because I didn't think it was a good fit. She didn't think it was a good fit. She like was a little like weird towards the other artists and stuff like that. This was like 2015, 2016, maybe 17. I don't remember, but it's one of those situations where I knew after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to better myself even more to make sure that, like, you know, if something were to happen, you know, we make it work. You know what I mean? But again, I'm sure you've been in situations. Not everybody is fit for Mike Squires. Not everybody is fit for Tommy Carlucci. Not everybody is fit for that artist. You know what I mean? Like,
it's so important, and you bring up so many good points because, especially when it comes to touring and doing shows, like, being good at your craft is kind of half the battle in that situation. The other
22 hours, 23 hours you're with those people.
You gotta be able to hang, and if the hang isn't good, it's kind of doomed from the start.
Dude, absolutely. I'm a firm believer of that. And for me, like, I'm a people person. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll talk your ear off all day. But if I feel that bad energy, I'm like, you know, same thing. Like, we clicked right away, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, the thing too, it's like, you know, when you're dealing with people like 24/7, living with these people, you're living on top of these people on tour, basically.
Dude.
You know, there's got to be that good vibe because it's just like, it's kind of what holds everything together.
Bro, we've done it in cars, RVs, tour buses, the Sprinter vans. When everything's all like, you're like this in the truck and like this one's sick or this one is like hungry, but you can't stop because you got to make it to the next city in like the next hour to make sound check. That's 2 hours after that. You know what I mean? Like,
do you have a tour horror story? Because I have one that I'm willing to share.
Absolutely.
I'll share mine and then hopefully, you know.
Please.
So it had to be the year 2017, 2018. And I was on tour and we had this tour manager. I'm not going to say her name because there's no need to, you know, put her on blast. But I had this tour manager and we had to leave, but we were all doing laundry. Now, if you see one of your tour mates stuff in the washer and they're not around, what do? You ideally should put it maybe in the dryer, like, or at least contact them and just like, hey, like, trying to do some laundry. That's not what my tour manager did. My tour manager took all my wet laundry and threw it all over the ground. And then by the time I got back from what I was doing,
it's a common courtesy. Just put it in the dryer.
Yeah, her stuff was all in the dryer. And then I was left with just putting all my wet laundry back into my suitcase, dude. Like, this kind of just goes back to what you're saying with, like, sometimes personalities just don't click.
Work. Or at least give you the heads up. It's common courtesy to be like, hey, man, listen, like, what's going on? Like, I would never throw anybody's clothing or anything like that.
No,
like,
most sane people wouldn't, dude.
I mean, yeah, did you make it to the next city at least? Yeah.
Yeah, but I was definitely fucking disgruntled in the backseat for 8 hours.
Dude.
You know what I mean? And with the faint smell of mildewy laundry, dude.
Oh, so you didn't even get a chance to dry it?
Oh, no, not till I got to the next city. And at that point, you have to rewash it because it's just it's fucking mad gross.
What's Mike Squires' go-to laundry detergent?
Ooh, honestly, whatever my girlfriend gets typically now. That's where I'm at in life. But I guess when I'm on the road, again, whatever the hotel has.
I love it. For me, so this was actually, I wouldn't say horror because thankfully, like, nothing crazy. Obviously, missing flights has happened, and that's kind of scary. But I would say going to a venue and we have a rider, stuff like that, because we get a lot of stuff advanced, and there was no snare, no cymbals. So I'm like, oh boy. But like, here's the thing, right? Like, shit happens. Like, I'm not going to be that guy that's going to be like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not, it doesn't end well, right? So for me, I'm like, you know what? Like, hey guys, like, we had this on the rider, like, for snare and this, and we have particular stuff, or I'm easy enough to take whatever's second best to what we ask for. And with that approach, the guy went back to his warehouse, came back in like an hour and a half. We didn't have a chance to sound check, which is part, okay, whatever. We work well under pressure. And we did it. But that was a big horror thing because it's one of those situations where, okay, like I'm so far away from home, don't have our stuff because we don't need it anymore. It was promised that we would have it. And it wasn't nobody from our tour's fault. It's just people who just don't read it sometimes. And, you know, that's why I'm a firm believer. I'll put those blue M&Ms on there, see if the blue M&Ms show up. You know what I mean? Like,
it's part of the game, though, just being able to adapt and just like go with the flow, because things, especially when you're on the road, and for any artists that are out there, like, you know, aspiring to hit the road, things are going to go wrong. Things like, but you just need
have
to be
adjust to it. I've had, like, I did a country festival, and we had 6 sets throughout, like, each artist that was coming through. So the tech at the time never changed my in-ear batteries. And I had mentioned them, like, hey, man, we need it. So I'll never forget, we were playing Luke Bryan's Country Girl, Shake It For Me. And it was, Mike, when I tell you, just a sea of people, because we played before Kane Brown went on. We were next to the stage. I'll never forget, I hear, you know, because I had Click running everything. So for those of you that don't know, Click is a metronome that keeps everybody in time in the in-ear side. So literally, that's all I hear. Besides, like, the band, that's to keep everybody in time. And next thing I know, the click disappears, and it's like, what? Now it's just static. I don't hear anybody anymore. So I told we had a photographer at the time that came out. He was like a local guy. He was phenomenal. Came over. He's like, is everything all right? I'm like, can you tell the guy? Because the guy in Monitor World wasn't there. So what I did was I was like, yo, can you go tell the guy front of house I need to change the batteries? So I gave him the pack. So now, most situations, people would flip out and stop playing. For those of you that know, the rhythm section is drums, your bass player. Look at the bass player. I'm like, yo, turn your amp a little bit towards me. He's playing, kicks it towards me. Now I'm following his lead for feel, because I don't have, you know what I mean?
That the click, yeah.
Yeah. And it worked out perfectly. But that was another horror where I'm like, oh man, like this is, but dude, you have to be prepared for everything, every scenario, every situation. You know what I mean?
And what makes you a professional and stand out, and this is so important, is that you didn't let the audience know.
No. Because once you do that, then it's, you know, on the internet or something like that. Not saying that it would, but I always have like that fear of like, okay, we got to give them the best show possible, because you don't want it to be, because, you know, you have a million haters out there, or people that don't like maybe a certain artist or certain music you play or whatever it is. And like, you just want to cover all bases. Obviously, you can't control what the internet says, because 99% of the time it ain't true anyway.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you want to make sure like you're giving people their money's worth, and the less horror stories, the better.
No, that's the truth, dude. I want to bring it to another story that is just another legend, because you just happen to meet all the legends, dude.
I'm with one right now.
Woo, thank you, dude. But the legend I want to talk about, Rick Rubin.
Oh, man. That was at WWE NXT. He's actually a huge fan of our product. And that was kind of just like talking to our head of music, like, hey, man, same situation. Would love to get a picture with him. If it doesn't happen, cool. If not, I just want to say hello. I want to shake this man's hand. Like, another pioneer. And he was cool. That was more of like a 10-second interaction. It's like one of those things like, all right, got to go. But I was able to get it. And I wish I had more time to talk to him. I'm sure our paths will cross again soon, because he always comes to events. But that was, when I saw him ringside, and I'm like, wow, like, he's here. Like,
yeah,
like,
dude.
what? Like,
it's really
insane.
crazy when you run into, like, you know, because a lot of these times you're only seeing these people behind a screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that when you see someone in real life.
Yeah. One of the sweetest people I've ever met was actually this past January, was Jelly Roll.
Oh, Jelly Roll's the man, dude. I could talk about that.
Like, cool as hell. Like, came in, I'm like, hey, man, I'm Tommy. He's like, Tommy, come give me a hug. Like, it was so cool. Like, I'm like, yo, like, this is, and we walked him over to our pre-show panel to do like a little appearance and an interview. I forget where that was. That was in Florida.
Yeah.
I think it was in Florida.
Dude, Jelly's the man, too. And, like, I've told this story before, but Jelly offered me, like, a full-time job, dude, as being,
really?
like, being his, like, photo video guy.
That's so sick.
But, yeah, dude, he's, like, always, he's just very nice. And, like, you know, he's probably been one of the people that have been, like, closest to me, where I've just, like, not that, like, we talk all the time, but, like, he was the closest, like, I've never seen someone grow so fast as an artist, like, right in front of my eyes.
He just did a show with WWE. He did SummerSlam. He did God Bless America, and he performed Liar.
Yeah,
that was the official theme. Which
I also saw him do a wrestling move, dude.
Yeah, dude. Don't be surprised, man, if one day, you know, he's in the Royal Rumble or something like that. That'd be cool to see.
No, it would be cool to see. But let's switch it to WWE, because you run deep in WWE. Yeah. So much that you were in a commercial when you were a child.
Multiple. Multiple.
Let's talk about them, dude.
So my parents have been with the company for probably 35, 36 plus years. My father was head of international. So he was in charge of like contracts and overseeing everything overseas and stuff like that, auditioning different announcers and stuff like that. Dude, he started in the mailroom. Like it's insane. His story is unbelievable. Manhattan, like where he went and took classes to become a producer, and from there, like went on the road. So what I do now on the road is floor manager. I'm not full time anymore with the company. I'm freelance, so it's just easier with my schedule and focusing more full time on music. But what my position is now, he did for 7 years, and he did it during the Attitude Era, which for those wrestling fans out there that know the Attitude Era of wrestling, it's one of the greatest times in our industry. So he's worked with the company for 36 years. My mom is still there, 35 plus years. She's in charge of travel. So she books every freelancer's travel from like 150 people a week, from utility guys to camera guys to audio guys to even helping out talent sometimes. You know what I mean? And my sister was with the company for, I think, 12 years. Don't quote me on that. Something like that. She's working for A&E now. But I mean, I've been with the company, I would say, since 2016. So 2014, because I started off as a tape logger. So way before our network was a thing, and way before Peacock, they hired a bunch of loggers to come in and watch footage. And we had a database where we would type in and quick clip all these stuff. So it was easier for producers to find stuff to cut packages and vignettes and all this stuff, right? So for example, WrestleMania, we had Stone Cold stun The Rock, right? I would quick clip that so it's easier for the producer to find it. So that way, if he needs to type something in, it's almost like Serato, right? You're looking for a song, you have certain keywords, different comments, right? That we label our music. That's how we did it with video. So we did it that way. And I'll never forget my first WrestleMania that I worked. I was just added on to work like something like the Business Partner Summit, which is like a big thing for all of our like different companies that we integrate with. And I worked, and I said to someone at the time, one of the higher ups, I'm like, hey man, listen, if you need help at WrestleMania tomorrow, I'll drive a golf cart, like whatever you need. We're at the Cowboys Stadium. It's huge. I know you guys are gonna need help. So that was a success. And I'll never forget, 2 weeks after that, I was logging in my office. I get a knock on the door from my boss at the time. So-and-so wants to see you, who was another higher up, who was also in charge of the road crew at the time. They're like, hey, how would you feel about being a tape PA on the road? Tape PA on the road, back then when tapes were still a physical thing, pretty much handing out sheets, all of our run sheets to like the trucks and Vince at the time and Triple H and, you know, producers and stuff like that, and announcers and front of house, which was audio, and our lighting guys, our digital, all that. So I would do that. And then after the show was done, I would grab the tapes that were in a suitcase. You were never to check that bag, because if it got lost, those were your shows. So for example, you had all the entrance music on one tape, camera one, camera two, whatever, right? That was our job. So we had tapes and drives. Bring them back so they can start working on SmackDown, right? Because at the time it was Monday or whatever the pay-per-view was. So from there, it was the tape PA plus logging. And then finally the road crew stole me, and they brought me on the road, and I trained to be a stage manager. So I was working live backstage and I was the liaison between writers and talent and producers. So we're the forefront of that, right? So say, for example, we do a shot backstage where it's like, I don't know, like a backstage interview on the set, right? So we have the announcer there, the talent that's working. We shoot that, right? We try to pre-tape it so it's easier for the day so we can get it done. Sometimes you got to go live. So now you're the liaison, studying the show, watching what's going on, telling the writer, hey, we got 3 minutes till break. When we come back from break, there's one item that's going to be played, like a vignette, and then they're coming to us. So you got to keep the producer and director honest of what's going on, and plus the writers. And now you're learning live TV. Now it's a high pressured, high stressful job, but you know what? I'd rather it be that way.
Yeah.
And then from there, turned into a floor manager, and I've worked every WrestleMania from 2016 on. Obviously, I left there 2019. My last day was the first SmackDown on Fox.
Oh, wow.
So that was my last day. And then I left for a year. I toured with a country artist. Got the call to come back. They were like, listen, like, we'd love to have you at NXT if you're down. And I said, absolutely. I would love that. And I came back and still working. I'm still doing main roster stuff, but my home now is NXT. So I'm a floor manager there. I work in gorilla position. That's where they come out. So I'm in charge of their entrances, running the rehearsals, working one-on-one with talent, with character development sometimes if they need help. And that's where the music side of things comes in too, right? Because, certain entrances need certain lighting cues, or this person needs to be loaded here so the lights hit them at a certain time, or come out during these beats because I think it makes more sense. You have more of a suspenseful buildup. You see all these camera shots. It's like, okay, now the music hits, wait a couple beats. Now I'm counting to them like 1, 2, 3. I would go there. If the beat drops on that, you know what I mean? Like we want to make sure that they're kind of good with that, right? But I'm super thankful to work for them, and it's a phenomenal company. You learn something new every day, and it's cool to see, because NXT is our developmental, right? Like I said, and it's cool to see some of these guys and girls go up to our main roster, because we're training them to get there, right? And to see some of those guys and gals come from being extra security in a backstage shot to being used as an extra on something on Raw, and then from there, NXT week in and week out, and then being moved to SmackDown and main eventing, it's kind of emotional, because it's like, damn, like I'm so happy and I'm so proud of them. Like this is all they wanted, you know what I mean? And that's what inspires me to keep going with this music thing, man, because it could change in a heartbeat, dude.
Yeah.
For good or for worse.
In 2019, that's when you left. You left after SmackDown. Mm-hmm. Were you nervous to like take that leap?
Absolutely, because it's a gamble, right? Like I stop. Like when you leave, okay, that's no 401k. That's no more benefits. You're out in the open now, trying to hustle to make sure you kind of get everything that you need, right? And I always knew, I'm like, just follow your heart. That's it. Like this will forever be home. And for me, I really wanted to push myself to see if I can really do it, And that sometimes people are afraid to do that. You know what I mean? Like people are afraid to take that step to do music full time. You know what I mean? And for me,
what you mean.
Yeah, like it's just like, bro, but you know what? Mike, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And like it's super cool to see that. Again, we're not where we want to be, but it's a step closer to where we want to go. You know what I mean? And for me, I was like, you know what? Like, let me audition for a couple bands, see what hits, see what doesn't. I'm going to give it my all. So everything I said I was going to do with, I want to tour with a country artist, did that, was with them for like 2.5 years. Great time. Learned a lot, and good and bad about myself, and even like, the band and everything, and just working together. And, because obviously bands have their frustrations, right? Like things don't
It becomes
really click
like family,
sometimes.
like, you know what I mean? Where it's like,
But like we threw down, and it was great. And I'm super thankful for that opportunity. But that was the first gig I got after I left. And it was like, okay, well now it's saving more money and, trying to find benefits, you know what I mean? And like,
yeah,
it's crazy, dude, because there's just so much stuff, and joining the union, you know what I mean? The music union and stuff like that. Like
there's a lot to figure out. And like in the eyes of a corporate world, I feel like a feral animal, dude, where it's like,
we're still feral, bro.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just like out here just trying to figure it out, because it is scary to like take the independent path, because it's like those benefit, like you basically lose the safety net.
Dude, and now you're on your own.
Yeah.
But I thank WWE for that too, because again, it's a high pressured, it's sink or swim. You know what I mean? And that's like where I got like that thick skin to kind of just apply this to everything I'm doing. You know what I mean? And kind of just, all right, let's go.
And I think also just having that pressure on you, especially with live television, is actually a really good thing, because it shows you like, oh, we could do this. You know what I mean? Like this is happening right now. Let's make it happen. No excuses.
Yeah. Like, and dude, I've had the pleasure to like, you name the wrestler, I've probably worked with them. You know what I mean? Which is cool. You know what I mean? And like, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. The experience that I saw, I saw you in the commercial with Kane, dude.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
I was terrified that day. I was in 5th grade.
I was going to say, do you actually like remember that? Because you were young, dude.
Yeah. I remember, my mother saying, we're going to the city. We're going to use you for a shoot. And it's going to be with Kane. Not sure what it is yet, but we'll figure it out when we get there. And at the time, like growing up, I knew everybody. So like I knew all the camera guys and stuff that were there. So they made it super comfortable, because, you get this big red monster that comes up from behind that you're like, oh my God, like this dude is scary. Like scared the living hell out of me when he debuted I think it was In Your House, 97, 98. If I get that year wrong, I know somebody from wrestling is going to be like, you didn't even know the date, whatever. But you know what I mean? It's just like one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, this dude's scary. And he was the nicest dude in the world. And we still, when I see him to this day, like it's still like, yo, remember this? Like it was cool. But I did that, and I'll send you a picture of this. I obsessed with wrestling as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And even back then, obsessed with the music, dude. Like I studied that religiously, because at one point I wanted to be the head of music there. Like I wanted to make it. and be that guy. You know what I mean? Which is cool. And shout out Jim Johnston, who's the greatest musical genius ever in our world of wrestling. And he made all the theme songs, all the legendary stuff that you've heard. And I remember I was obsessed with the music so much that I would impersonate all the wrestlers. At the time, they came out with Full Metal, the album, which was like, you know, one of the very first or like, you know, couple albums that we did. And they're like, we're going to do a commercial. We want you to be in it. You're the main guy with Classy Freddie Blassie, who is another legend in our business. And I impersonated all the wrestlers. I was in their outfits. And at the time, 50,000 units was a lot for an album back in the 90s, right? This was like 95, 96.
Oh, yeah. Even by today's standard, that's great.
I have a Canadian gold plaque with my name on it that says to commemorate all the like the successful sales of this album in Canada. Like, this is presented to Tommy Carlucci, and I still have it.
That's a beautiful thing, dude.
I gotta send it to you.
Can you tell me a story that you have with a wrestler that's like a standout one that like when you think about WWE, you think of this story?
The Undertaker. So obviously, I'm named after my father, Tom Carlucci Sr. And I'll never forget when I first was introduced to him. He's very intimidating. Like, he was the king of the locker room, still is. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of those guys where it's like, you know, if you have to talk to him, like, yes, sir. You know what I mean? Like, that's the respect he has. So a close family friend who also worked on the road, she's like, I'm going to introduce you to him. I'm like, okay. We're about to do a shot, right? Like a backstage with him. And she's like, oh, like, so, like, you know, Taker, sorry to interrupt. I said, I just want to introduce you to Tommy Carlucci. He's new to the road. And he looks at me, Mike, and he goes, Tommy Carlucci? You're not the Tommy Carlucci I know. Now get the fuck out of my shot. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, oh, my God. He's like, no, I just kidding, man. Like, truly nice to meet you. How's your dad doing? Like, tell him I said hello. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, and it's, like, super cool to, like, and every time I saw him, like, after that, like, I've had the pleasure of, like, WrestleMania in 2018 in New Orleans, we sent him up in the elevator to do his entrance because it was a huge stage. Like, I was there to send him. Like, that was a true honor. It was like full circle moment. Like, my dad was at ringside when Mick Foley got thrown off the cage. And if you ever look at that footage, there's a guy in a blue like jacket, like a suit jacket, that backs up. It's my dad. So like to have my dad work with them and then I have a chance to send him out for WrestleMania, it's a full circle moment. And like, it's just super cool.
It is cool, dude, because it's like, not many people can say that they kind of grew up side by side WWE, where it's like, I feel like in some capacity, like these people are your family.
Dude, it's insane. Like another prime example, like NXT is ran by Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, dude. And like that I thought I was Shawn Michaels growing up. And to call him a close friend now and colleague, to work with him one-on-one and earn his trust and respect every week at NXT, it is like, holy shit. This is really cool. Like that I have his trust. But we work towards that. You know what I mean? And like, super thankful.
Yeah. Do you have a funny story with like Vince or anybody too?
Well, he doesn't know I have a tattoo.
That would be, I mean, that's the $1 million video. Just being like, yo, check
yeah.
That's either that or that's extremely awkward.
Maybe one day, who knows?
I mean, you could always pull the Herman Munster.
Yeah, at this point, I might as well. And just be like, yo, listen, he was my favorite TV character. Like, you know what I mean? So, but Vince, not so much. I mean, he was always great to work with, you know, but again, one of those things where like, you know, when you're backstage and you got to do a shot, if he asks you a question, you better have 20,000 different answers and your reason why you did it. And if you don't, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I'm going to pull it to the opposite of wrestling.
Okay.
You met Ed Sheeran.
I did. Wow. You really did your research. Yeah, that was through another mutual friend of mine that I had the chance to work with Christmas in Rockefeller Center. And we're still great friends to this day. He's actually out on tour with Kane Brown right now.
Oh, insane, dude.
So yeah, he's my boy. He's awesome. And I remember we went to the show and he's like, yo, like I'm close friends with him. Like, you want to go? I'm like, sure. And it's one of those things where it's like, if it happens, it happens, right? Like I'm just there to like listen to the music. And like at the time, like his band was sick. Cause you know, Ed sometimes doesn't have a band. And then some shows he does, some shows he doesn't, cause he has that loop pad. And that's in itself, like that, like those pedals that he does where he builds the song on stage.
I've seen it, yeah.
Is insane. Maybe that's something you should do.
That
for a
honestly
future show.
Honestly, not a bad idea.
That would be sick. We should look into that.
Yeah, we should look into that.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to Stanford. We'll have a lot of time to
And then
look
we'll
at
have
things.
like Das do all like your visuals, and, like behind you, like, you know. So, no, man, but it was cool. Like we went after like backstage. I was at the Barclays, and we went out afterwards, like backstage over there, and we were just chatting and stuff like that. And it was cool to like have that mutual connection of like somebody that we knew, and super welcoming, man. And like, just like, yo, like, you know, what are your aspirations? And like, what do you want to do with this? I'm like, I want to tour. I just want to tour. I want to be a musician. And this is all I wanted to do. To this day, it's all I want to do. And to say I'm doing it, again, I think one word to describe today's whole conversation is thankful. You know, it's one of those things where like, we're still building this, you know what I mean? And you got to study and keep the hard work going. And I remember when I told him that, I'm like, yo, listen, like, this is what I want to do. Maybe I'll work with you one day. You know what I mean? So like, it was cool.
And the fact that I wouldn't expect anything else from Ed Sheeran. He just seems like a nice, cool dude. But the fact that, like, you know, he gives people the time of day with the level of success, like, to me, that's so important.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Has there been an instance in the industry where you met somebody, and you don't have to say by name, but like you met someone who was the opposite, where it's like you were disappointed meeting them?
Not really.
That's a huge blessing, dude.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, bro. Dude, seriously, man. Like, and people are gonna look at that and laugh and it's like, oh, he's lying because he doesn't want to say anything on here. But like, no, there's not. There hasn't been anybody where I'm like, oh, that guy's an asshole. Like, but then again, like, doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. But like for me, no, I've never. Thank God. It's probably gonna. I'm gonna call you next week if I have a gig. Be like, oh, well, I just met my first guy. That's like been a jerk.
Yeah, dude. There's one other person I want to bring up before I start winding this down. Yeah. Action Bronson.
Excuse me. Huge wrestling fan. And that was like,
that doesn't surprise me, actually.
But that was like his mixtapes and albums were the soundtrack of UNH for Johnny and I and us. Like, you know what I mean? Like we were like,
I know Johnny's a big Blue Chips guy,
dude. The best.
Yeah.
Right. And like I just remember seeing him there, and our head of music. I'm like, sorry again. Like, yo, I gotta send this to my boys. Like this is cool. But you know what? At the end of the day, man, like he attends the shows. Like it's gonna happen, right? And like he was so cool, bro. So cool. Like, and he's like, yo, bro. Like I'm like, yo, like. So you are the soundtrack of my college days. And he was like, super chill.
Yeah.
Super chill.
He seems like a nice dude. And honestly, he's got me inspired in some senses because I have a friend of mine that when I say Action Bronson, he doesn't even think music, dude, because he has all the food stuff now. You know what
that's
I mean?
delicious.
Yeah.
I have the cookbook.
Bro, but that's crazy to me too, where it's like, and this should be inspiration for anybody out there. And it's like, if you're in a career path and you think you might want to change it up, like you don't even have to let go of the old thing, but you should be willing to try new things and know that you can find success in new avenues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he was even like involved in wrestling. So he was doing that for a little bit too.
Yeah.
So he's killing it, bro.
Yeah. And you know, one question I want to ask you too, Tommy, is because you do both DJing and drumming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's kind of like the balance between the two? Like, what do you prefer? Do you have a preference, or do they kind of...
I love them both. I mean, there's nothing like playing live music, right? Like to do these shows and like play on the way down to like every city we go to, it goes nuts. Like I remember I had Ryan's track on my iPod and I would listen to it. It was actually one of my favorite songs back in '04. Now, it's not even a lie. And like for me, I was like, you know what? Like hit the track, got our click and our backing track. I'm like, yo, like we're playing this live. There is nothing like playing live music because you are it. Like you are playing that song. Like you are playing those parts that everybody knows and hearing everybody sing along to it. It's so sick. And then at the same time, you got DJing wise where like you have the whole crowd in your hands. At the end of the day, we're playing other people's music, but it's a blessing to run a room, control a festival, control, different wrestling shows. Cause I've done that. I've mixed live on NXT for tag teams and stuff like that, mashing up. And again, it's live. Anything can go wrong. Super thankful for that. But I think for me, it's an equal love because I'm able to do both, right? I can go out on tour, do a show with Ryan, hit a nightclub after, and DJ if I wanted to, you know what I mean? And do that kind of stuff. It's just, I'm super thankful. I've had my frustrations where it's like, damn, like, what do I do? Like, do I stop one? Do I not stop one? I'm like, you know what? Like, look at Questlove's a prime example, dude. It's done so much. And in the game and has been on some of my favorite live albums. What he does with Jimmy Fallon is genius. Like drums, that he can go in the city or travel and DJ at night. So that's why I'm like, yo, anything's possible. So that's why it's an equal love for me.
Tommy, what's some advice that you'd give to an upcoming, anybody even just in entertainment?
Network. Connect.
Number one, dude.
And just, there's going to be times where you're going to get a no. You're going to get 1,000 no's. It still happens to me this day, trying to get out to other clubs and do this stuff, But at the end of the day, you can't be discouraged. I mentor a few like DJ friends of mine who, are much younger than me that, they're phenomenal. And they get down sometimes on why they can't get gigs. I'm like, yo, listen, we've all been there. I've been there. I'm still there. Like, you just need to network and know when your time comes, like, go off. You know what I mean? And really show them what you can do. And that's why I'm super thankful for the opportunities, because you don't know when it's going to end. You don't know if this will be your last opportunity. And you want to make sure that you do so well that you make a name for yourself, that people will remember when they leave whatever event, wedding, birthday party, festival, arena show, whatever the case may be, dude, like, make sure they leave and go, damn, I fuck with that dude. Or I fuck with her. Like, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, she left an impact. I left an impact. You know what I mean? So my whole thing is to go back to that question, because you know me, I go off the rails sometimes. I apologize. Be you and network. You have to just network, and don't be so overbearing where people are like, damn, like this dude again.
You got to be able to hang, dude.
Yeah, you have to. And it's more of like, if you get a no, somebody will say yes down the line.
Oh, yeah. And like, if you're in anywhere in the industry and think you're going to get no, like, it's just part of the game. You got to build up that.
And don't be sour if you get the no.
Oh, yeah, it's part of the game, because like, and the way I look at it, like, sometimes like that moment, you might not have even been ready in that moment. And sometimes you realize that down the line, that when things start to fall into place for you, you're like, oh, honestly, it might have been a good thing that was a no, because right now I'm actually where I want to be.
Right. Dude, I'm with you 1,000%. And for me, like, I'm still trying to build my stuff, and, I'm going to work on a few other things as well, just to make sure that everything is right. So when that opportunity does arise, that there's another opportunity somewhere, they have what they need,
Yeah. I want to talk about one more thing before we get out of here.
Of course.
I saw you in a G Unit t-shirt way back in the day.
Wait, what?
I saw you in a G Unit t-shirt back in the day, dude. But that's not the point I'm going to.
Is this, because that was the title picture, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah. But I'm bringing this up because
of course,
you're about to open up for 50 Cent.
Man.
How's that feeling, dude?
It is a true honor, and I'm forever thankful to the Hey Stanford guys and everybody at Parachute.
Yeah, I'll shout them out by name, Ilario.
Oh, yo, that's
Chet
what I'm saying,
Ross.
dude. They are the best, and I owe them my life, and they know that, and they hate when I say that, but it's the truth.
They're
really always believing in me and you, and dude, it's dope. Like, I'm really excited. Like, he was my favorite artist growing up. And shout out to my boy Nicky Riz. He'll be with 50 Cent for that set as well. Phenomenal DJ as well. One of the heavy hitters DJs. And dude, just to be there and have that opportunity. I remember when I got that call to like, would you want to do it? Would I want to do it? Like, of course. Like, and to be on that flyer with him and stuff. And it's gonna be insane. That's all I could say. And full circle, dude. Like, I had Get Rich or Die Trying. I had all those mixtapes. I had every album. The Massacre was one of my favorite albums, and like, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be an absolute movie, dude. I'm excited to see what you do, dude.
I can't wait. We got to put you, I'm telling you, I told Ilario maybe we put you in a raft and we have you crowd surf across.
Oh, I'm in, dude.
I didn't mean to I put my hand there. See, that's a no-no in the wrestling business, to put your hands in front of the camera.
I mean,
like
if they're supportive of that, dude, I'll like mic you and mic me, and like that, bro, that would be crazy. Just the audio.
Can I ask you a question?
Talk to me.
This is one question I've been wanting to ask you during this interview.
Yes. Is
the red, white, and blue suit going to make an appearance?
It could.
I think it should.
I think it should. I mean, 50 Cent, 50 states. I don't know, man.
Yo, it's a thing. I love it. Yeah. We need Mike Squires tracks jackets, by the way.
Yeah, bro. The windbreakers, dude.
I love it.
I got the last question for you.
Dude, ask away.
Tommy, what's your message to the world?
Wow. Damn, you hit me with a deep one there. Bro, honestly, let's see. What is my message to the world? My message to the world is never change who you are. Follow your heart. And most of all, believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will.
Gotta believe before the world does, Tommy.
That's it. Dropping knowledge. I was spitting everywhere over here. I apologize if I had a little waterworks.
No, you're good.
From this.
It's cool with me. If people want to connect with you and find you, how can they find you, Tommy?
You can find me on Instagram at Tommy_Carlucci, Carlucci. As far as I do drop a lot of stuff like with podcasts, as far as like Posh DJ's podcast out in Jersey. I do a lot of house mixes for them, so that's on my Mixcloud. And also with Hot 97, after I do my sets, I always record them, so people want to listen back. Mixcloud.com/DJTommyC203. But mainly my Instagram. Yeah. I had like a bunch of Facebook pages, but like I don't think nobody uses those anymore. So
yeah.
And working on TommyCarlucci.com. If you go there now, you'll see Babyface Tom in the woods with a snare drum. At the time, advertising that I was a freelance drummer.
Let's go, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming on the pod, dude.
Mike, thank you so much, brother. I look forward to many more events with you, and let's kick ass.
I'm moving back to the city, so we're going to be hanging out more, dude.
Let's go. Thank you again, bro. It's a true honor to be out here.
I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Thank you, bro.